History is a graveyard of burned pages. We are told that philosophy is the love of wisdom, the pursuit of truth, the noble dialogue of ideas passed down across centuries. But this is a lie. What survives in your libraries, what your teachers praise in universities is not the full story. It is the censored fragment of a much larger, darker archive. Philosophy has always been a dangerous fire, and the world has always tried to put it out. The most dangerous texts are not the ones you read. They are the ones that were forbidden, exiled, or burned forever. Why burn a book? Because words are not harmless. A book can ignite rebellion, dissolve empires, topple gods. A book can turn subjects into skeptics, believers into rebels, slaves into predators. The ruling class has always known this. That is why every empire, every church, every state has its own bonfire of ideas. They fear philosophy not because it is abstract, but because it teaches men to think in ways that no system can survive. The Library of Alexandria, burned. Countless manuscripts lost to flames, not because they were useless, but because they were dangerous. Entire worlds of thought annihilated before they could infect minds. How many philosophies of freedom, cruelty, chaos, or heresy died in that fire? We will never know. The silence itself is the proof of the crime. Consider the medieval church. It did not merely preach salvation. It hunted down manuscripts. It declared heretical anything that questioned divine authority. Entire sects were silenced, their books confiscated, their ideas buried. The Inquisition was not only about burning bodies, it was about burning words. The stake and the bonfire were twin weapons, meant to erase forbidden thoughts from both flesh and memory. But the forbidden always leaks back. Think of Giordano Bruno, burned alive in Rome because his books dared to imagine an infinite universe where the earth was not the center. His crime was not astronomy, it was philosophy. His writings dared to suggest that man was not the measure of all things, that the sacred order was a prison, that truth was larger than doctrine. The church did not kill him for what he saw. It killed him for what he wrote, because words survive longer than men. Or look at Spinoza, excommunicated, cursed, treated as a plague because his writings dared to collapse the difference between God and nature. He did not shout in the streets. He wrote in silence. But his words were dynamite. To publish him was to risk annihilation. His books were hunted, censored, hidden. Today they are classics, praised in classrooms. But never forget, they were once poison, punishable by fire. Even in the modern world, the burning continues. Revolutionary texts are banned, censored, erased from circulation. Totalitarian regimes purge libraries. Democracies, too, only more subtly, ban books under the language of morality, safety, or progress. They do not always use fire. Sometimes they use silence, omission, invisibility. A book that cannot be found might as well be burned. So what exactly makes a book forbidden? Not violence. Governments produce violent texts themselves. Not immorality. They tolerate corruption daily. What they cannot tolerate is disobedience of thought. A forbidden book is one that refuses to play by the rules of the prison. It reveals the architecture of power. It mocks the sacred. It strips the mask from morality. It tells the herd they are chained, and worse, it tells them how to break the chains. And this is the secret. The most forbidden books are not necessarily lost. Some survive in fragments, hidden in corners, rediscovered centuries later. Others live on in whispers, smuggled copies, digital archives. But the fire still burns in a quieter way. The herd is trained not to want them. Even if the book survives, most will never read it. The censor's greatest victory is not the fire. It is the indifference of the crowd. Philosophy has always been a war. Every idea is a weapon, every book a soldier. Some are praised, polished, paraded through universities. Others are silenced, buried, betrayed. The books you know are the survivors of massacres. The books you don't know are the ghosts of thought. haunting history with the truth that what you call wisdom is only the remnant of what was allowed to live. So I ask you, what would you do if you held in your hands a book that no one wanted you to read? Would you hide it, burn it, obey, or would you read it, knowing it could fracture your mask of sanity, strip your illusions, and brand you a heretic? Comment below. If you could resurrect one lost book from history, what would it be? Subscribe if you want to keep exploring the forbidden side of philosophy. Like this, if you've ever felt curiosity for what you were told never to touch. Share this with someone who believes censorship protects us, and watch how their certainty burns when you tell them truth has always been forbidden. Because the most dangerous books are not the ones you've read. They are the ones they tried to burn forever. If Block 1 revealed the fire, Block 2 uncovers the ashes, the fragments of forbidden texts that survived, half-burned, hidden, whispered through centuries. The rulers of every age tried to erase them, but ideas have a way of clawing their way back from the grave. Start with the Gnostics. In the early centuries of Christianity, dozens of sects flourished, each with their own gospels, their own visions of God, their own radical philosophies. Some said the world itself was a prison built by a false creator. Some said salvation lay not in obedience but in knowledge, gnosis. To the early church, this was poison. If people believed God was a jailer, the entire sacred hierarchy collapsed. And so, gospels were burned, followers slaughtered, libraries purged. For centuries, the Gnostic texts were thought lost. But in 1945, jars buried in Nag Hammadi were unearthed. Inside, forbidden gospels still whispered the heresy, that the God worshipped by millions was a tyrant, and that freedom could only be found by escaping him. Imagine the terror of priests, realizing that their God was described as the warden of a cosmic prison. Consider the grimoires, books of magic, summoning, hidden knowledge, banned, burned, demonized, yet always circulating in shadows. Why? Because grimoires taught individuals that power could be seized without priests or kings. They claimed you could speak directly with forces beyond, bend reality with symbols and rituals, steal power that was never meant for the herd. To church and state alike, this was intolerable. A peasant who could command spirits or bend fate was a threat greater than any army. So grimoires were declared heretical, demonic. Copies were burned, owners executed. And yet, fragments survived, passed hand to hand, disguised as prayers, hidden in margins. The very act of reading them became rebellion. Look at Machiavelli's The Prince. Today it sits on shelves, quoted by politicians and CEOs. But at the time of its writing, it was toxic. It was accused of being a book of the devil, banned by the church, cursed by moralists. Why? Because it stripped power of its mask. It said openly what rulers always practiced in secret. That morality is a costume, that fear is stronger than love, that deception is the spine of politics. To read Machiavelli was to see the theater of power without the curtain, and for that the book was hunted. That it survives today is proof not of tolerance, but of its usefulness to those who learn to rule by it. Or consider the works of Sade. The Marquis did not just write pornography, he wrote philosophy through pornography, dissecting morality with obscene cruelty. He asked why we worship virtue, why we condemn desire, why power cloaks itself in false piety. His books were banned, burned, hidden. Even revolutionaries who claimed to fight for liberty silenced him. His ideas were too corrosive, too destabilizing. They made morality look absurd, nature look monstrous, and humanity look like predators hiding behind civility. To this day, his writings are whispered, censored, feared, not because of their sex, but because of their philosophy. Then there are the political texts erased before they could spread. The writings of radical heretics, anarchists, revolutionaries. Some lost completely, others smuggled in fragments. Governments burn not only what blasphemes gods, but what blasphemes power itself. A book that tells the herd they are prey is dangerous, but a book that tells the herd how to hunt, that is unforgivable. Those are the volumes most thoroughly erased, because they do not merely expose, they arm. Even philosophy's giants face the flames. Works of Aristotle vanished for centuries, hidden in monasteries, preserved only in Arabic translations that survived the church's bonfires. Nietzsche's The Antichrist was banned for its open attack on Christianity. Heidegger's books were scrutinized, censored, his thought chained to politics. Each time the message was the same: the herd may read what keeps them docile. They may not read what wakes them. Notice the pattern. Forbidden books are never those that are merely obscene, violent, or strange. Those can be tolerated. Forbidden books are the ones that expose the mechanics of the cage. The ones that tell you that morality is a leash, that God is a jailer, that rulers are actors, that desire is power, that truth itself is a mask. Those cannot be allowed to spread, because once you see them, you cannot unsee. And yet, here is the brilliance of forbidden texts. Their destruction gives them more power. To be banned is to be marked as dangerous. To be burned is to be branded eternal. The ashes whisper louder than the book itself. A forbidden book becomes legend, myth, prophecy. The herd forgets safe books, but they never forget forbidden ones. So ask yourself, what forbidden text would you risk your life to read? A gospel that says your God is a tyrant, a grimoire that claims you can summon power from shadows, a political treatise that tells you how to topple the pyramid of rulers. Comment below, which would you choose? Subscribe if you want to keep exploring the texts they never wanted you to touch. Like this, if you've ever felt curiosity for knowledge marked dangerous. Share this with someone who believes books are harmless, and remind them, books are burned because they are weapons. Because the philosophers you are taught in school are only half the story. The real philosophers were silenced in fire. The bonfires of the past have not gone out. They have only changed form. Today, books are not piled in city squares and burned under the gaze of priests or soldiers. The flames are colder now, quieter, digital. In the modern age, censorship has become more elegant, more efficient, more invisible. But the intention remains the same: to erase forbidden thoughts before they infect the herd. The modern fire is silence. In democracies, there are no inquisitors dragging writers into prisons, at least not visibly. Instead, there are publishers who refuse to print, platforms that erase without explanation, algorithms that bury content so deep no one will ever see it. The herd thinks this is freedom because the chains are invisible. They say, there is no censorship here. But tell me, what difference is there between a book thrown into a fire and a book hidden so completely you can never find it? Oblivion is oblivion, whether by flames or by feeds. Consider the way ideas are deplatformed. It does not matter whether the book still exists if the author is marked untouchable. To blacklist a thinker is to burn him socially, to erase his legitimacy, to exile him from discourse. The book may remain on a shelf, but the reader is taught to fear it, to mock it, to dismiss it. This is how censorship works today, not by erasing words, but by erasing reputations, by turning curiosity into shame, by teaching you to censor yourself before you even open the page. And then there are the algorithms, the invisible priests of the digital age. They decide which texts rise and which sink, which ideas spread and which vanish. They are not neutral. They are designed to feed the herd comfort and entertainment, never danger. They create a library where forbidden texts exist but no one sees them. Imagine a library with every forbidden book intact, but the lights always fall on the same shelves, while others rot in darkness. That is the algorithm. It does not burn, it blinds. Even universities, once the temples of knowledge, now act as guardians of the mask. They present safe philosophers, sanitized ideas, interpretations that neutralize danger. Nietzsche becomes a metaphor. Machiavelli becomes history. Marx becomes theory. Sade becomes literature. They are defanged, declawed, presented as relics rather than weapons. Students do not read them to be transformed. They read them to pass exams. This is not preservation. This is another kind of burning. To turn fire into decoration is to extinguish it. And yet, forbidden texts still slip through. They always do. In whispers, in underground forums, in pirate archives, in photocopies and PDFs passed like contraband. The form changes, but the hunger remains. The forbidden is always seductive, because the herd knows instinctively that what is banned has power. And those who seek it become dangerous, not because of the text itself, but because of what it proves. They are willing to question. They are willing to read what others fear. Think of the present. Political texts that challenge the sacred idols of democracy, religion, gender, or freedom are silenced with new labels: hate, harm, extremism. The words change, but the fire is the same. A forbidden book is always framed as dangerous not to the powerful, but to you. They tell you it must be erased for your safety. They infantilize you, pretending you cannot survive ideas on your own. And most believe it. Most cheer when books are burned in silence. The herd has been trained to fear thought as much as fire, but you, listening now, cannot claim ignorance. You know that what is hidden is not erased. You know that what is silenced is not harmless. You know that forbidden books remain dangerous precisely because they reveal something the rulers need concealed. To read one is to step outside the herd, even if only for a moment. To hold a forbidden text is to feel the heat of the fire that once tried to erase it. This is why philosophers today must be smugglers, not priests of truth, but smugglers of dangerous illusions. The role of philosophy now is not to invent safe systems for classrooms, but to preserve the books that burn quietly in the background, to pass them hand to hand, screen to screen, until the fire is never final. So ask yourself, which is more terrifying, that books are burned by fire or that they are buried in silence? Comment below. Do you think modern censorship is more dangerous because it hides itself? Subscribe if you want to keep hearing the words they try to bury. Like this if you've ever felt an idea vanish from view, as if swallowed by an invisible flame. Share this with someone who says censorship no longer exists, and remind them the fire never stopped. It only learned to hide. Because the most dangerous books today are not those you cannot buy. They are those you do not even know exist. The fire never wins. Every forbidden book proves it. Empires fall, religions fracture, rulers die, but somehow the dangerous words crawl back from the ashes. You can burn a body, you can silence a voice, but words are smoke, and smoke slips through every crack. That is why the powerful burn them endlessly, and why they never succeed. The paradox of forbidden books is this: to destroy them is to immortalize them. The moment a book is marked dangerous, it changes forever. It ceases to be mere ink and becomes prophecy. People forget shelves of safe philosophy, but they never forget the texts that were banned, burned, hidden. A forbidden book carries an aura, an echo of fire, a whisper that says, someone feared this so much they tried to erase it. And that whisper is more seductive than any praise. Look at the fragments of the heretics. The Gnostic Gospels survived in jars because someone, centuries ago, risked their life to hide them. Grimoires survived in scraps because peasants and monks copied them in secret, disguising spells as prayers. Machiavelli's prince survived because even while church and state cursed it, rulers could not resist its utility. The more dangerous the book, the more likely it is to find secret protectors. This is the forbidden's immortality. It feeds on fear. Even destruction cannot kill the idea. Burn Nietzsche, and his words spread further. Ban Marx, and his ghost marches louder. Silence Sade, and his obscenity leaks into every century after. What rulers never understand is that to forbid is to advertise. Every fire lights a signal. This text matters. Every prohibition becomes a challenge. Read me if you dare. This is why philosophy at its darkest is not about truth. It is about survival. Philosophers are not saints of reason. They are smugglers of forbidden fire. They carry dangerous books through time, across regimes, through censorship and silence. Sometimes they fail. Sometimes whole worlds of thought are lost. But often, fragments remain, enough to spark rebellion centuries later. That is why the herd still reads Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, Nietzsche. Not because they were safe, but because they were dangerous enough to survive. And here is the truth the rulers cannot bear. Every forbidden book creates its own disciples. The very act of opening one is a ritual of rebellion. To read what someone tried to erase is to spit in the face of every censor, every ruler, every priest. It does not matter whether you agree with the text. The act itself is liberation. The forbidden is freedom, not because it saves you, but because it proves you can still choose what you are not allowed to choose. So what should you do? Seek the forbidden. Dig in the shadows of history. Read what your teachers dismiss, what your leaders condemn, what your culture hides. Not because it will give you comfort, it won't. Not because it will give you clarity, it may not. But because it will give you something more important. The reminder that thought can still be dangerous, that fire can still burn, that not everything has been turned into a product for the herd. Because the real question is not whether forbidden books survive. They always do. The real question is whether you will dare to read them. Most will not. They will stay safe, loyal, docile. They will read what is allowed, think what is permitted, believe what is popular. They will forget that philosophy was born in danger, in exile, in poison. But a few, perhaps you, will seek the texts that were almost erased. And those few will never see the world the same way again. Comment below, what book do you think is most dangerous today? Not because it is violent, but because it reveals too much. Subscribe if you want to keep unearthing the philosophies they buried. Like this, if you've ever felt the pull of something forbidden. Share this with someone who thinks censorship protects us and remind them the fire was never for protection. It was always for control. Because forbidden books never truly die. They survive in ashes, in fragments, in whispers. They outlast the censors, the rulers, the empires. They wait, patient, until a reader like you dares to open them again. And that moment, the moment your eyes meet words someone once tried to erase, is the only real act of freedom left.